It all started when I was just 8 years old. I accidentally broke a vase that was incredibly precious to my stepmom. A vase I later learned symbolized more to her than just its aesthetic value. It represented a life and a home she had cultivated, one that didn't necessarily include me. Her reaction was immediate and harsh, culminating in an ultimatum to my dad. It was either her or me. As a child, I clung to the belief that my dad would choose me, his daughter, over anything else. But that night, the reality hit hard as he drove me to Grandma's house, a decision that would reshape my entire childhood. I remember feeling a mix of disbelief and betrayal as he left me at Grandma's. Although he maintained contact, calling daily and visiting often, something fundamental in our relationship shifted that night. At first, I tried to mask my hurt and confusion with a veneer of happiness, but that facade quickly crumbled. I couldn't fake my feelings, and I became increasingly withdrawn and emotionless around him. My dad noticed the change and would often express his concerns to Grandma, puzzled by my cold demeanor. This emotional distance grew until, at the age of 9, I made a decision that felt like reclaiming a bit of control. I asked to live with my mom full-time. She lived in a small apartment, which meant giving up the space and comfort I had at my dad's house. But what mattered more was feeling wanted and safe. My mom agreed without hesitation, and from then on, our bond only strengthened. I even shared a bed with her until I moved in with my fiancé, something others might find odd, but for me, it was a source of comfort and security. Over the years, our relationship became my sanctuary, especially as I navigated the teenage years filled with typical challenges and some not-so-typical family dramas. My mom supported me by enrolling me in various after-school programs, which were both a way to develop my interests and a strategic move to limit my interactions with my dad. These activities were a blessing. They kept me busy and helped me avoid unwanted confrontations. Time moved on, and eventually I heard news that my stepmom had another child, a baby boy. They threw a big celebration, one that I wasn't part of. My relationship with that side of my family had faded so much that I didn't even meet my half-brother during those early days. Our interactions were limited to brief, uncomfortable encounters during obligatory birthday gatherings or sporadic visits to Grandma's house. Recently, another major life event unfolded: my engagement. My fiancé proposed in a wonderfully understated way, and I was overjoyed. I shared the news with my close family, my mom, uncle, mom's cousin, and of course Grandma, but I intentionally left my dad out of the loop, given our strained relationship. However, Grandma accidentally let the news slip to him, and he seized the opportunity to reach out, inviting me to a family dinner to introduce my fiancé and meet my baby brother. I wasn't ready for that kind of reunion, so I made an excuse to avoid it. Unfortunately, this led to a confrontation with Grandma, whom I unfairly lashed out at in a moment of frustration. Now for the top comments before the update. So he shipped you off to Grandma's because he couldn't be bothered with you, and now he wants to play happy family. Nope. All you need to say is that you and your fiancé, congrats by the way, have no interest in having dinner with the man who tells his wife over his child because of a broken face. And we're not going to even go into the fact that stepmother got away with such an ultimatum in the first place. He made his bed and now we can lie in it. No joke. As a father myself, there's no way I'd pick a girlfriend over my young child for any reason but a stupid face. I have given myself a hernia laughing her butt at the door the moment you better choose past her lips. It sounds like dad and stepmom deserve one another, and not much else. To be honest, I'd be tempted to get a Goodwill vase and send it to them in some way that's crappy. Like with a note that says, "Don't worry about missing the wedding. You can walk this face down the aisle anytime you want." Or maybe send them a photo of the vase wearing a wedding veil or something. If appears Jewish, maybe she and her fiancé could send them a video of them smashing bases in a wedding-style op. Can't you send a vase to your dad and stepmom to congratulate them on the baby with the card? I hope your new baby doesn't break anything too nice. Grandma is getting too old to raise any more of your kids. You chose your wife over a little child. That was the day I stopped being your daughter. Please don't contact me again because I have no desire to have a relationship with you. It's profound and beautiful. Oh, please do this. Oh. Also, apologize to your grandma, but reinforce to her the idea that you are non-contact with your father after he abandoned you for his new family. If she tells your father anything after that, stop telling her things until she gets the idea. Update 1. So the day after I had a big argument with Grandma about telling my dad I was getting married, she called me up sounding super serious. She said we needed to sit down and talk because there was a lot more to the story about the broken vase than I ever knew. This got me feeling really anxious because I thought I already knew all the important stuff. When I went over to see her, she dropped a huge bombshell. The vase I broke when I was 8 wasn't just any old vase. It was super important to my stepmom because it contained the ashes of her first child, who died as a baby. My jaw literally dropped. I had no clue about any of this, and suddenly the pieces started to fit together about why she flipped out so much when I broke it. I felt horrible because I didn't know, and no one ever thought to tell me. As I was still trying to process this news, guess who shows up at my front door? My dad. Yep, out of nowhere, he comes knocking. He wasn't just there to chit-chat, he came to apologize. But not just for the recent mess-up when he invited me to dinner and I refused to go. He wanted to say sorry for pretty much everything bad that had gone down since the day he decided to send me to live with Grandma. He said he realized he had made a bunch of mistakes, especially letting his relationship with my stepmom mess up our bond. Just as I thought we were done with surprises, he hit me with another one. He and my stepmom are getting a divorce. It turns out she's been cheating on him, and this wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. My dad was really upset, obviously, and he was there trying to find some comfort or support from me, the kid he hadn't really been there for because of all the past drama. So there I was, stuck in the middle of this emotional storm, trying to figure out how to feel about all these revelations. My dad was clearly a mess and wanted to fix things between us. Part of me felt like maybe we could start over, but another part of me was just overwhelmed by everything. And then there's the whole thing with the vase. Knowing what it really meant made me feel guilty about breaking it, even though I had no idea about its significance back then. It was like, on one hand, my stepmom never really treated me nicely, but on the other hand, I unknowingly destroyed something that was super precious to her. Everything was just a big, tangled mess, and I found myself having to decide whether to let my dad back into my life or keep some distance while he sorted out his own issues. And of course, there was the task of explaining all this new drama to my fiancé, which I knew wasn't going to be easy. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm just here trying to make sense of things, figure out my feelings, and decide what to do next. It's a lot for anyone to handle, and I'm just taking it one step at a time. Update 2. Just as I was trying to get my head around all the family drama and mend things with my dad, my stepmom decided to stir the pot in a big way. Out of nowhere, she showed up at my doorstep. I mean, literally just appeared one morning, looking all upset and teary. It was so unexpected that I almost didn't open the door. First, she started off all soft, saying how sorry she was for all the tension between us over the years. It kind of threw me off because she'd never been this way with me before. Just as I was wondering what her game was, she switched up the conversation entirely. She began telling me this wild story about how everything that went wrong in her marriage with my dad was actually his fault, not hers. She painted herself as this total victim, which was really hard to swallow given everything that's happened. Then, she tried to pull me onto her side for the upcoming divorce. She claimed that my dad was hiding money and other stuff to leave her with nothing when they split. It felt super manipulative, like she was trying to get me to feel sorry for her and back her up in court or something. But here's where it got totally crazy. She brought up the vase incident, the one where I accidentally broke a vase that had her first child's ashes in it when I was 8. She accused me of breaking it on purpose. Can you believe that? She was twisting what happened when I was just a kid into something mean and spiteful to make herself look like she was the one being wronged all these years. And just when I thought she couldn't go any lower, she told me she was planning to take legal action against me for the emotional pain she's been carrying since the vase broke. She even brought documents from a lawyer, threatening to sue me if I didn't support her side of the story about my dad and their marriage in the divorce proceedings. It was totally outrageous and felt super entitled, like she was using the law to force me to do what she wanted. I was stunned, like completely speechless. Here was my stepmom, who hadn't been the nicest person all these years, suddenly on my doorstep playing the victim and trying to drag me into her mess with these crazy accusations and legal threats. After she left, I had a major sit-down with my fiancé, who was just as shocked by all of this as I was. We talked it over for hours, trying to figure out what in the world I should do. It felt like I was suddenly a character in some wild soap opera. Except this was real life, and these were real big problems. We decided that we needed to stay clear of her manipulations and not get pulled into this drama any more than we had to. But with legal threats now hanging over my head, it was clear I had to figure out some way to deal with it without letting her walk all over me. It was a mess, a huge mess, and figuring out the next steps was going to be really tough. But one thing was clear. My stepmom was ready to do whatever it took to come out on top in her battle with my dad, even if it meant dragging me through the mud to get there. Update 3. Alright, so here's the news on the latest wild turn in my stepmom's drama. Just when I thought things might start to cool down, she decided to take our family drama to a whole new level by going digital. Yep, she blasted everything on social media. This wasn't just a little post here and there. She went all out. She put up a super long Facebook post and even did a live stream on Instagram where she spilled all the beans, talking about how much emotional pain she's been going through because of our family issues. She brought up the old story about the vase I broke when I was 8, trying to make me look like some kind of villain from a movie, even though I was just a kid who made an honest mistake. But wait, there's more. During her Instagram live, she dropped a bombshell. She was starting a charity in memory of her first child, whose ashes were in that vase I accidentally broke. She made it sound like she was on this noble quest for peace and healing. It was super obvious she was aiming to tug at people's heartstrings and get everyone to side with her while making me out to be the bad guy in front of pretty much everyone who followed her online. And just when I thought she couldn't possibly twist the knife any deeper, she pulled another sneaky move. She organized this big online fundraiser event for her new charity and sent out invites far and wide. And guess what? She made sure to send an invite to my fiance's parents, who had no idea about all the deep and messy details of our family drama. It felt like she was trying to embarrass me and drag them into this mess, making things super awkward and putting me on the spot. My dad, who's been trying to stay out of the spotlight while dealing with their messy divorce, was absolutely furious when he found out about her social media antics. He called me right away, super upset, but also really concerned about how all this drama was affecting me and our efforts to rebuild our relationship. He apologized over and over for the mess and made it clear he was firmly on my side, despite everything going on with the divorce. As if I wasn't already dealing with enough, the next thing I knew, I got served with official papers. Yeah, my stepmom actually went through with it. She sued me for emotional damages and defamation. That means she was accusing me of ruining her reputation because I wouldn't back her up in public. The lawsuit was filled with all sorts of legal terms and threats, basically saying if I didn't give in to her demands, she was ready to take this battle to court and keep it there as long as it took to get what she wanted. That evening, I had a serious sit-down with my fiancé. We were both majorly stressed but knew we couldn't let her manipulative games scare us off. We decided it was time to get some legal advice for ourselves, not just to fight against her lawsuit, but also to figure out how to prevent her from pulling my fiancé's family into this ever-growing circus. It felt like my stepmom was on a mission to paint me as the ultimate bad guy to everyone we knew. The situation was spinning out of control fast, and we realized we had to prepare for whatever crazy thing she was going to throw at us next. It was overwhelming for sure, but we were determined to stand our ground and not let her theatrics dictate our lives. Update 4. Alright, here's the latest on the never-ending drama with my stepmom. After she went all out on social media, sharing her side of the story, things took a turn. But this time it felt closer to home and a bit more personal. She took her story to the local community center, which is like the main hub in our town where everyone goes for events and gatherings. There, she put up a big public notice on the bulletin board. It was basically a long, open letter to everyone in town, painting a picture of herself as someone who's been suffering quietly for years. In her letter, she talked about the deep pain she felt losing her first child, and then reliving that pain when I accidentally broke the vase with the ashes. She made it sound like she was under constant emotional attack, hinting that I, even as a little kid, had somehow made her life miserable. It was like she was crafting a story where she was the hero, wronged by her own stepchild, and now she was sharing her tragic tale with the whole community. But she didn't just stop with a letter. She went a step further and organized what she called a healing and awareness session right there at the community center. She advertised it as a chance for people dealing with similar family issues to come together, share their stories, and support each other. It was pretty clear she was trying to position herself as a kind of leader or spokesperson for people going through tough family dramas. Word about her letter and the meeting spread super fast. Before I knew it, people I knew, like neighbors, old classmates, and just random folks I'd see around, started giving me these looks. Some were looks of concern, like they felt bad for what I was supposedly putting her through. Others were just curious, like they couldn't figure out if I was really the person my stepmom was describing in her public plea. Feeling a mix of annoyed and kind of betrayed by the way she was twisting things to make me look bad, I decided it was time to do something about it. I talked it over with my fiancé, and we agreed that just letting her control the narrative wasn't an option anymore. We had to set the record straight, but in a way that was thoughtful and didn't just throw more gas on the fire. So I started reaching out to people in the community who I trusted and who knew me well. I shared my side of the story, the real version, with all the context that my stepmom conveniently left out. I wasn't trying to start a public fight or anything. I just wanted to clear up any misunderstandings and show that there was another side to this whole saga. Meanwhile, my dad was keeping in close touch throughout all this. He was really supportive, always checking in and making sure I was okay. He was also trying to handle their divorce as quietly as possible, hoping to avoid any more public blow-ups. But my stepmom seemed to have other plans, really leaning into her role as the misunderstood victim. As things stood, the community was buzzing with all sorts of opinions and gossip. It felt like everyone had something to say about the drama. But with every new challenge, my fiancé and I got a bit tougher and a bit wiser about how to handle the situation. We were determined to deal with this whole mess in a way that kept our dignity and stayed true to who we were. It was exhausting, no doubt, keeping up with my stepmom's maneuvers, correcting false stories, and trying to maintain some peace. It was a lot. But we kept our focus on handling things maturely and not letting the drama drag us down. It's been a wild ride, and it seems like each day brings a new twist, but we're hanging in there, ready for whatever comes next, hoping eventually things will start to calm down. Update 5. So get this. Things with my stepmom just went from crazy dramatic to full-on explosive. After her little healing and awareness session at the community center, where she tried to play the victim, she decided to up her game, but it totally backfired on her. Let me break it down for you. A few days after her event, she decided to confront me in the most public and dramatic way possible, right in the middle of the local grocery store. Yep, imagine this. We're there between the apples and the breakfast cereals, and she starts going off. She went full Karen mode, loudly telling anyone who would listen how I was the root of all her problems, and how everyone in town needed to know the real me. She was throwing around words like ungrateful and disrespectful, making a huge scene. But here's the twist. One of the people watching this showdown was recording the entire meltdown on their phone. The video got everything, her ranting and raving, and me trying to keep things cool, suggesting we talk about it privately instead of in the middle of the grocery aisle. I was all about keeping the peace, even with her going off the rails. That video? It went viral, like really viral. It spread across social media faster than a wildfire, and the reactions started flooding in. Most people were pretty shocked by her over-the-top behavior and actually felt bad for me, seeing how I was trying to handle the situation calmly. The video painted a clear picture. She was the aggressor, and it wasn't a good look for her. As the video made its rounds, people who had read her letter at the community center and who had been at her session started doubting her story. They saw this other side of her, the entitled, aggressive side, and began to wonder if maybe they hadn't gotten the whole story. But wait, it gets even juicier. After the video blew up, some folks from her past saw it and decided to come forward with their own stories about her. Turns out, she had a bit of a history of twisting the truth and playing the victim long before she married my dad. These new tales started circulating, adding even more doubt about her character and her past actions. Feeling the pressure from all the negative attention, my stepmom tried to dial it back. She posted a public apology on her social media, saying she was stressed and didn't mean for any of it to go so far. But by then, most people weren't buying her sudden change of heart. The damage to her reputation was pretty severe, and her attempt to backtrack seemed a little too convenient. During all this chaos, my dad was amazing. He was totally shocked by her outburst in the store and was super relieved that people were finally seeing the real her. He kept telling me that we'd stick together through this mess and that eventually the truth would come out. He was a solid rock during the storm. As for me and my fiancé, we were kind of in shock but also relieved. It felt like finally, after all this drama, the truth was coming out and people were seeing her true colors. We knew there might still be some bumps ahead, but with the community starting to back us and see through her antics, we felt a lot stronger and ready to face whatever comes next. It was an insane turn of events, but in some weird way, it felt like we were finally getting to a place where we could breathe a little easier. It was like a giant knot was unraveling, and we were just watching it all come apart, hoping that soon we'd find some peace after the crazy storm. Update 6. Just when everyone thought maybe, just maybe my stepmom might chill out for a bit, she cranked the drama dial all the way up again. Check this out. She made a move that was so over the top, it left pretty much everyone in our town shaking their heads in disbelief. Here's the full scoop. After everything seemed to quiet down following the whole viral video saga and her half-hearted public apology, there was a weird calm for a few days. Turns out, she was just gearing up for her most outrageous stunt yet. One morning, as folks were heading to work or taking their morning jog, they came across something that stopped them in their tracks. A gigantic billboard right at the entrance to our neighborhood. And yep, it was all about my stepmom. This billboard had a massive photo of her looking all serious, and a huge message about her journey to find truth and justice amidst family betrayal. It sounded like something out of a TV show. But wait, there's more. She announced on this billboard that she was starting a series of community talks around town about handling family conflicts and promoting healing. It was pretty clear she was trying to clean up her image by making herself look like a peace advocate. But that's not all. Overnight, she launched a slick new website where she put up what she called evidence to back up her side of the story. This included a bunch of messages between us, taken totally out of context, and some really twisted facts about our family life. The site even had a section asking for donations, claiming she'd use the money to help others who were dealing with similar family issues. This move just threw another log on the fire of drama she was building. The reaction around town was a mix of shock, annoyance, and disbelief. People couldn't believe she'd go to such lengths, especially after the backlash she'd already faced. It seemed like she was trying to twist the public's view of her yet again, but this time, folks were getting really tired of her games. And then, something unexpected happened. During one of her first community talks at a local hall, which barely anyone attended, something pretty epic went down. A well-known local counselor who had been following the drama stood up in the middle of her speech and started challenging her. Right there, in front of everyone, he called out the inconsistencies in her stories and questioned her motives. And yes, someone recorded the whole showdown, and that video went viral too, just adding to the pile of evidence that she wasn't as truthful as she claimed to be. This new video going viral seemed to be the last straw for a lot of people in our town. There was a ton of chatter on social media, with more and more folks expressing support for me and my family, and questioning everything my stepmom was trying to sell. Throughout all this, my dad was a rock. He kept telling me that we were doing the right thing by sticking to the truth, no matter how tough things got. He was really bummed about how out of hand things had gotten, but also kind of hopeful that maybe this latest blunder by her would help more people see her true colors. My fiance and I had a lot of long talks about how to handle all this. It was exhausting to keep being dragged into the spotlight, but we knew we couldn't just sit back and let her spin things her way without any pushback. We decided to keep standing up for ourselves when we needed to, but also to try to focus on our own lives and future together, away from the drama vortex. As for my stepmom, it looked like her strategy of trying to control the story was finally backfiring big time. People were getting really fed up with her antics, and her credibility was crumbling more with each passing day. It was a roller coaster of emotions, but it felt like maybe the community was beginning to see through her act, and that gave us a little hope that peace might be on the horizon after all this chaos. Last update. After all the drama, the viral stunts, and her public meltdowns, things took a surprising turn that pretty much no one saw coming. After the last public disaster at her so-called community talk, where she got called out by that counselor, my stepmom totally disappeared from the radar. It was like she just vanished from all the public drama making. For a couple of weeks, everything was super quiet, which was honestly pretty weird given how loud things had been. We all kind of held our breath, wondering what was up. Then out of the blue, I got something in the mail from her. It was a letter, which was a shocker in itself because after all the public posts and videos, a simple letter felt kind of old school. But this wasn't just any letter. It was an apology. And not the kind of sorry not sorry thing she'd done before. This seemed like the real deal. She wrote about how she realized that she had let her anger and past issues cloud her judgment, making her act in ways that she wasn't proud of. She admitted that she had hurt a lot of people, including me, and that wasn't okay. She said she was planning to step away from trying to grab everyone's attention and instead focus on getting some professional help to work through her issues. She wanted to try and fix some of the damage she'd done, starting with our relationship. I won't lie, I was super skeptical at first. After all the stunts she'd pulled, trusting her wasn't easy. But there was something about the letter that felt genuinely different, like maybe she was actually serious this time. Meanwhile, back in our town, things started calming down big time. The infamous billboard came down, and her website suddenly disappeared off the internet. It was like the whole community let out a collective sigh of relief, ready to get back to normal life without any daily drama updates. My dad was pretty surprised by her letter too. He hoped it meant she was finally turning a corner, and that maybe, just maybe, there could be some peace in our family again. We talked a lot about it and decided to give her some space to prove she was really trying to change. Our relationship, which had been through so much, started feeling stronger and more stable, and that was something I was really grateful for. As for me and my fiance, we took this quiet time as a blessing. We dove into planning our wedding, feeling closer and more connected after weathering this storm together. We talked a lot about the situation with my stepmom and agreed to keep a cautious but hopeful eye on how things unfolded with her. We were all about moving forward, focusing on our life together, and keeping things positive. So, that's pretty much where we landed at the end of all this madness. After a wild and often exhausting journey, It looks like there might be some calm seas ahead for us. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, and I've learned a ton about dealing with tough family stuff, staying strong, and the power of forgiveness. Thanks for hanging in there with me through this whole saga. It's been wild, it's been real, and it's taught me more than I ever thought I'd learn about how crazy family life can get. But here we are, standing strong, looking ahead, and ready for whatever comes next. Bring on the future. It looks pretty bright from here. Cheating ex-wife thought she'd get my parents' $1 million trust fund in the divorce. Now she's broke. So yeah, I'm 51, and my second wife, Emma, is divorcing me. And I gotta say, I didn't see this coming at first. Well, maybe I should have. But when you're in it, you miss the red flags. You know what I mean? Anyway, before I get to the messy part, let me start from the beginning because this whole thing is a wild ride. I wasn't always this dumb with relationships. My first wife, Karen, passed away in a car accident about 10 years ago. That was rough. We had a daughter together, Julie, and when Karen died, Julie was 12. Man, I didn't even have time to grieve properly. I had to keep it together for my kid. We became each other's support system, you know? Like, I couldn't break down because she needed me. And I guess, in a way, she couldn't fall apart either because I needed her too. Fast forward a bit. Julie grows up, and when she turns 18, she heads off to college. She's smart, got into a good school in Manhattan, and that's when things started getting really quiet at home. I mean, like, deafeningly quiet. There's only so much TV a guy can watch to distract himself. So, what did I do? I started hitting the bar after work. Seemed harmless at first. Go in, have a drink, chat with the bartender, head home, rinse and repeat. That's where I met Emma. She was working behind the bar, serving drinks, and I'd see her almost every night. At first, it was just polite conversation. You know how it goes? Hey, how's your night? Busy shift? That kind of thing. I think she noticed that I was there a lot, probably staying longer than I should have. I'd sit there nursing my drink, just trying to kill time until it was late enough to justify going home to my empty house. It was depressing, honestly, but I wasn't going to admit that to anyone at the time. One night, Emma asked me if I was doing okay. I guess she could tell something was off. I mean, I wasn't exactly trying to hide it. So we got talking, and she seemed nice, easy to talk to. And yeah, she was younger, like 11 years younger than me. But at that point, I didn't really care. I just wanted someone to talk to. Now, I know what you're thinking. Older guy, young bartender, obvious midlife crisis. Trust me, I thought the same thing. I wasn't planning on anything serious. I mean, I wasn't that guy. But Emma was different. She had this way about her that made you feel like you mattered, like she was genuinely interested in what you had to say. And to be real, I was lonely as hell. Julie was off living her life, and I was just stuck in mine. After a few weeks of this back and forth, Emma made the first move. I wasn't expecting it, honestly. She asked me out, and I said yes. Why not, right? It wasn't like I had anything better going on. We started dating, and it was good. Better than I thought it'd be. She had a kid, Jack, a 2-year-old from a previous relationship. The guy bailed on her when she got pregnant, so she'd been raising the kid on her own. That kind of hit me in the gut. I respected her for toughing it out, and we bonded over that, I guess. Both kind of alone, dealing with our own messes. Things moved faster than I expected. After a year, we got married. Now, don't get me wrong, I had my doubts. She was way younger, and I wasn't sure if it was going to last, but when she proposed the idea of marriage, I went with it. I was too deep in at that point to back out. Plus, Julie had met her by then and gave me the green light, saying she just wanted me to be happy. She knew how rough it was after her mom passed, and she saw how much I'd changed since being with Emma. So yeah, we had a small, quiet wedding. Just me, Emma, her kid, and her sister, Carrie. Now, Emma and Carrie had their own sob story. They were both abandoned by their parents when they were little and ended up in an orphanage. It wasn't something they talked about much, but it explained a lot about why Emma was the way she was. She was tough, independent, and I kind of admired that. But looking back, I wonder if all that baggage should have been a red flag. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. The first year of marriage was fine. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. We went on trips, did the whole happy couple thing, and I really bonded with Jack. He reminded me a lot of Julie when she was little, running around the house, causing chaos in the best way. I thought everything was perfect. But then Emma quit her job. Said she wanted to spend more time with Jack, which, okay, I could understand. But that also meant I was the only one bringing in money. Didn't bother me at first. I was doing well with my family's real estate business, so I could afford to support us. But things started to shift, and I didn't even notice it at first. Emma's spending habits? Yeah, that's where it all went sideways. At first it was little things. new clothes for Jack, some stuff for the house, whatever. But then it got bigger. She started buying expensive designer clothes, fancy jewelry, booking spa days, and I just kept paying for it. It was almost like I didn't want to rock the boat, like I didn't want to admit that something felt off. I just wanted to keep her happy, you know? Then Julie came home for Christmas and saw what was happening. She's always been sharp, smarter than me in a lot of ways. She pulled me aside and told me I needed to watch out, said I was spending way too much on Emma, and it wasn't normal. At first, I brushed it off. I told her she was overreacting, but deep down, I knew she was right. Emma wasn't like my first wife, Karen. Karen never cared about material stuff. But Emma, she lived for it. That conversation with Julie was the wake-up call I needed. I started keeping track of what I was spending, and man, it was bad. Emma wasn't just asking for things. She was expecting them, like it was her right. And the more I thought about it, the more it bugged me. I was being played, and I didn't even see it. I started pulling back a bit, told Emma we needed to cut back on the spending, and that's when things really went downhill. She got defensive, saying I was being cheap, that I didn't appreciate her. Then she started accusing me of letting Julie turn me against her. It was like everything I did wasn't enough anymore. She wanted more money, more stuff, more everything. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't see the signs sooner. I guess I just didn't want to believe that someone I cared about could be so selfish. But once you start noticing things, it's hard to unsee them. And trust me, things were about to get a whole lot worse. All right, so after I told Emma we needed to cut back on the spending, things just kept getting worse, like way worse than I expected. You'd think after having a serious talk about finances, she'd at least try to be more responsible, right? Nope. She did the exact opposite. It's like telling her no just flipped some kind of switch in her head. Now, before I dive into this, I gotta say I didn't grow up rich or anything. Yeah, my family's real estate business is doing well, but I wasn't raised to just throw money around. My dad was big on teaching me the value of a dollar, but with Emma, it felt like she saw me as an endless ATM. She didn't even try to hide it after that conversation. The moment I said we needed to cut back, she started acting entitled, like she deserved everything I could give her, and more. One of the first big red flags happened when I cut back on the joint account. I didn't stop putting money in, I just reduced it a bit. Still enough to cover the basics and give her some spending money. But apparently that wasn't good enough for her. She came at me like I'd insulted her entire existence. She said, "What? Am I not worth it anymore? You think I'm some charity case now?" I just looked at her like, "What are you even talking about?" It wasn't just about the money, though. It was how she started treating me. There was this shift. Like, she didn't even respect me anymore. She used to be all sweet, and now it was like I was the enemy. Every time I brought up the spending, she'd flip it back on me. "Oh, so you don't think I'm worth a nice pair of shoes?" Or, "I sacrificed my job for this family, and now you're gonna treat me like I'm useless?" It was wild. I never said anything like that. I just wanted her to be more responsible, but she made it out like I was punishing her. And let's talk about the job thing for a second. I was fine with her quitting to be home with Jack. I actually thought it was a good move at the time. But now, she was using it as leverage. Like, I owed her everything because she quit her job to be a full-time mom. Don't get me wrong, being a parent is hard work. I get that. But I didn't sign up to fund a fashion show. She wasn't spending the money on Jack or the house. She was spending it all on herself. Clothes, handbags, shoes, spa days, you name it. At this point, I started to see what Julie was talking about. Emma wasn't the same woman I'd married. Or maybe she was, and I just didn't notice it until now. Either way, the money was flowing out faster than I could keep up with, and I was getting seriously worried about the future. I mean, I wasn't going to go broke or anything, but I wasn't about to let her drain me dry either. Then came the parties. Oh yeah, Emma loved to party. Before, it wasn't a big deal. We'd go out once in a while, have a good time, nothing crazy. But now, she was going out all the time. I'd come home from work and she wouldn't even be there. She'd be out with her friends, partying till 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was the one at home with Jack, reading him bedtime stories and making sure he was fed. Which, by the way, I didn't mind. Jack's a good kid, and I cared about him like he was my own. But Emma, she was off doing God knows what, and I was starting to get suspicious. I tried talking to her about it, about how she was barely home, how she wasn't being responsible. I was getting fed up with being the only adult in the house. But whenever I brought it up, she'd flip the script again, accusing me of trying to control her. "You're just jealous because I'm out having fun and you're stuck here," she'd say. Like, seriously? I'm the one keeping this family afloat, and she's trying to make me feel guilty for not partying? One night, things came to a head. It was a Thursday, and I'd gotten home from work early. I thought maybe we could sit down, have a real talk, try to work things out. But when I got home, the house was empty. No Emma, no Jack. At first, I thought maybe they were out at the park or something. But as the hours ticked by, I realized Emma was out again. I texted her, no response. I called, straight to voicemail. She didn't come home until 3 a.m. When she finally stumbled in, reeking of alcohol, I was waiting for her. I asked her where she'd been, and she just shrugged, saying, "Out with friends. What's it to you?" That's when I lost it. I told her this wasn't working, that she needed to get her act together, or we were done. I wasn't going to keep funding her lifestyle while she partied every night and left me to raise her son. And you know what she said? She laughed. She actually laughed in my face and said, "You can't do anything about it. You need me more than I need you." That hit me like a brick. Like, who does she think she is? After that, I started pulling back even more. I stopped giving her money directly, only paying for the essentials: food, bills, Jack's school stuff. I thought maybe she'd get the message, but nope. She doubled down, started using my credit card without asking. I had to cancel it just to stop her. And when she realized I wasn't giving in, she started getting nasty. I'll never forget the look on her face when I told her I canceled the card. It wasn't anger. It was like I'd broken some unspoken rule between us. She couldn't believe I'd cut her off like that. And that's when she started threatening me. She told me I was making a huge mistake, that I was pushing her to do something drastic. I asked her what she meant, but she just gave me this cold smile and said, "You'll find out soon enough." I should have known then what was coming, but I was still trying to save the marriage. Still trying to fix what was already broken, but looking back, I realized there was nothing to fix. Emma wasn't interested in saving anything. She was only interested in what she could get from me. It all came to a head a couple of weeks later when I came home early again. And this time, I caught her in the act. Alright, so let me get straight to the point. This is where everything hit the fan. It's funny how you always think you'll notice something big coming, like some huge red warning sign, but man, when it happens, it catches you completely off guard. Well, not completely. I guess I knew deep down that something was going to happen with Emma, but I didn't think it'd go this far. So, here's what went down. I'd been noticing for a while that Emma was getting more distant. Like, not just emotionally, but physically. She was gone more and more, and even when she was around, it was like I didn't exist. I started to get suspicious, but I kept telling myself not to jump to conclusions. I figured maybe she was just going through a phase, or maybe she was mad about me cutting her off from the spending spree she was on. But what happened next? Yeah, no one's going to convince me I didn't have a right to be suspicious. It was a Wednesday, middle of the week. I was supposed to be at the office all day, but one of my meetings got canceled. So I figured I'd take the chance to head home early, surprise her, maybe talk things out like adults. I knew things were rough between us, but I still wanted to believe we could fix it. Like, maybe we could sit down and have a real conversation, put everything on the table. I pulled into the driveway and everything seemed normal. Her car was there, which I thought was a good sign. Maybe she wasn't out partying like usual. Maybe she was home with Jack, and we could just have a quiet evening for once. I walked inside, and right away, something felt off. The house was too quiet. No cartoons playing, no toys scattered around the living room like usual. It was weird. I called out for Emma, and no answer. I walked through the house, checking the kitchen, the backyard. Nothing. It wasn't until I got to the bedroom that I realized exactly what was going on. The door was slightly cracked, and I could hear voices. 2 voices. My heart dropped right into my stomach. I knew instantly what was happening, but my brain couldn't really process it, you know? Like, part of me wanted to just turn around, walk back out the door, and pretend I hadn't heard anything. But I couldn't. I had to know. So I pushed the door open, and there they were. Emma, in our bed, with some guy I'd never seen before in my life. They didn't even hear me at first. It was like I wasn't even there. But then when the guy finally noticed me standing in the doorway, he jumped up, scrambling to put his clothes on. Emma? She didn't even look surprised. She just sat there, completely calm, like she was expecting this moment to happen sooner or later. Now, you'd think I would have lost it, right? Like, that's the normal reaction when you catch your wife cheating on you. But I just stood there, staring at her, trying to wrap my head around what I was seeing. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. The guy bolted out of the room, mumbling something about being sorry or whatever. I didn't even look at him. My eyes were glued to Emma, waiting for her to say something. When she finally spoke, it wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an explanation. She just said, "Well, now you know." Like, that was it. Like I'd just caught her eating the last cookie from the jar or something. I couldn't believe it. I asked her if she'd been cheating the whole time, and she just shrugged. A shrug. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some kind of dramatic scene, some big reveal. but all I got was indifference. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I just stood there for what felt like forever, letting the reality of the situation sink in. Finally, I just told her to leave. That's it. I told her to get her stuff and go. And you know what? She didn't even argue. She didn't try to explain or beg me to forgive her. She just got up, started packing a bag like it was the most normal thing in the world. I sat on the edge of the bed while she packed, staring at the floor, wondering how the hell I'd ended up here. I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I sure as hell didn't deserve this. She took some clothes, her laptop, a few personal things, and then she was gone. No goodbye, no, I'm sorry, nothing. Just walked out like it was no big deal. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, going over every moment of our relationship in my head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. How did I not see it? Was I just blind the whole time? Or did I ignore the signs because I didn't want to believe them? I don't know. The next day I thought maybe she'd come back. Maybe she'd realize what she'd done and try to fix it. But she didn't. Instead, she served me divorce papers a week later. I wasn't surprised, honestly. But when I looked at the papers, I saw something that did surprise me. She was asking for $500,000. Yeah, you read that right. Half a freaking million. She figured she'd hit the jackpot by marrying me, and now she was cashing in. She must have overheard me talking about my family's trust fund at some point, and assumed that I had access to all that money. But what she didn't know? The trust fund wasn't mine. It was set up for Julie after my first wife died. Emma had no legal claim to it. When I saw the number, I couldn't help but laugh. Like, seriously? After everything? She thought she was just going to walk away with a payday? I had to give her credit. She really thought she was about to pull one over on me. But I wasn't about to let that happen. I called my lawyer the next day and filled him in on everything. He told me to hold off on responding to the papers until he had a chance to look them over. And let me tell you, I was more than ready to fight this in court. There was no way in hell she was getting a dime from me, especially after what she did. It's funny, though. After she left, the house felt just as empty as it did before I met her. Maybe even more so, but instead of feeling lonely, I felt relieved. Like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Sure, I had a legal battle ahead of me, but at least I didn't have to deal with her anymore. And that's when I realized something. I didn't lose anything that day. She did. She lost the life I gave her, the stability, the support. And all for what? Some guy she barely knew? A quick escape? Who knows? But what I did know was that I wasn't going to let her get away with screwing me over financially. Not a chance. Update 1. Alright, so after Emma walked out and dropped the divorce papers on me, things didn't exactly slow down. If anything, they got messier. I mean, the cheating was bad, but the divorce? That's where she really showed her true colors. If I thought catching her in bed with another guy was the low point, I had no idea what she had up her sleeve next. So I took those divorce papers straight to my lawyer, Tim. Tim's a good guy. Straightforward, no nonsense. I needed someone who could handle this without dragging it out forever, and Tim was perfect for that. When I handed him the papers, I remember him raising an eyebrow at the $500,000 demand. He looked at me like, "Is she serious?" And I just shrugged. I mean, what could I say? Emma clearly thought she hit the jackpot with me. Tim flipped through the pages, making notes and mumbling to himself. After a few minutes, he looked up and said, "All right, here's what we're going to do. First off, she's not getting that trust fund money. That's for your daughter, and there's no way she's going to touch that. But you already knew that." I nodded. I wasn't worried about the trust fund. What bugged me was the fact that she had the nerve to ask for it in the first place. Like she thought she could just waltz out of my life, take my money, and run off with some guy. Not happening. Tim kept reading through the papers, and that's when he found the kicker. Okay, sorry for using that word, but it fits. Not only was Emma asking for the money, but she also wanted the house. Our house. The place where I'd lived for years, even before I met her. She wanted that too. And she wanted it now. I couldn't help but laugh. I mean, really? She cheats, leaves, and now she wants to take the house I've lived in for over a decade? Yeah, not happening. Tim wasn't laughing, though. He told me that while it seemed ridiculous, we couldn't underestimate how low she was willing to go. That's when he explained how these things tend to play out. The more outrageous the demands, the more room they give you to negotiate down, he said. I got the feeling Emma wasn't just being greedy. She was being strategic. This was her game, and I was starting to realize just how good she was at it. The next couple of weeks were a whirlwind of meetings with Tim, gathering documents, and preparing for the first court hearing. I tried to keep things normal at home, but every time I walked through the front door, I couldn't help but feel a little sick. This was the house we were fighting over. the house she was trying to take from me, and I couldn't even relax in it without thinking about that. Meanwhile, Emma was out there living her best life, or at least pretending to. I'd get texts from friends saying they saw her out at bars, fancy restaurants, or on vacation with that guy she cheated with. She was flaunting it, like she didn't have a care in the world. And that's when it hit me. She was using the joint account, the one I hadn't closed yet. She was still spending my money. I called Tim immediately, and he told me to go to the bank and close it down. So I did. And man, I wish I could have seen her face when she realized the well had dried up. That's when the real fun started. A couple of days later, I got a flurry of texts from Emma. First, they were calm, asking why there wasn't any money in the account, saying she needed it for Jack's school or some other excuse. I ignored them. Then the messages got angrier. She accused me of being petty, of trying to ruin her life, saying I was punishing her for leaving. Like, no, I'm just done funding your little vacations with your new boyfriend. She tried calling too, leaving me these long, rambling voicemails about how I was forcing her hand, and that I didn't want to see what she was capable of. It was all so dramatic, but at this point I wasn't fazed. I saved all the messages though. Tim said they might come in handy later. Now, here's where it gets really good. The first court hearing was coming up, and I was ready. I had everything lined up. Documents proving the trust fund wasn't mine, bank statements showing how she drained the joint account, even evidence of her cheating. Tim had it all sorted. But Emma? She showed up to court like she was walking the runway. I'm talking designer clothes, expensive heels, and that smug look on her face that made me want to scream. And get this, she brought the guy with her. To court. I didn't react. I knew better than to give her what she wanted, which was probably some big scene. Instead, I just sat there, letting Tim do his thing. As soon as the proceedings started, her lawyer jumped right into the demands. $500,000, the house, and oh yeah, spousal support. She wanted me to pay her monthly, because according to her, she'd given up her job for the good of the family, and now couldn't support herself. The nerve of this woman. But Tim was ready. He shot down the trust fund demand immediately, explaining to the judge that it wasn't even in my name and that Emma had no legal claim to it. She looked pissed, but her lawyer quickly moved on to the house. That's when Tim dropped the bombshell. Sorry, used it again. The house wasn't fully mine either. It was part of the business trust my parents had set up years ago, and Emma had no claim to that either. She didn't know any of this. I watched her face go from smug to pale in about 2 seconds flat. Then came the real kicker. Last time, I swear. Tim brought up all the evidence of her cheating. The texts, the bank records showing how she'd been using the joint account to fund her new lifestyle, and even photos of her and the boyfriend on their little vacations. The judge wasn't impressed. Emma's lawyer tried to spin it, saying she'd been forced into the affair because I was emotionally distant or some nonsense like that. But the evidence was too strong. It was clear as day what had happened. By the time the hearing was over, Emma looked like she'd been hit by a truck. The judge ruled in my favor on pretty much everything. No $500,000, no house, no spousal support. She was walking away with nothing. And let me tell you, it was the best feeling in the world. Now it's not over yet. We've still got a couple more hearings to finalize everything, but at this point I'm not worried. I've got Tim in my corner, and Emma's lost her upper hand. She thought she could play me, but in the end, it looks like she played herself. But hey, there's still more to come. I'll keep you guys posted. Update 2. After the court hearing where Emma got slapped with reality, you'd think she'd back off, right? Like, surely she'd realize that she wasn't going to win and just take the loss gracefully. But nah, that's not how Emma operates. She doubled down, trying to pull one last stunt before the final nail in the coffin. After that first court hearing, I thought things were finally wrapping up. Tim did his thing, shot down all her demands, and I was feeling pretty good about how it all went down. Emma, on the other hand, was not taking it well. I hadn't heard from her since the hearing, which was fine by me. She was out of the house, out of my life, and I was just waiting for the final divorce settlement to come through. But then, about a week later, I got a knock on my door. It was Emma, and let me tell you, I was not ready for that. I hadn't seen her since court, and honestly, I didn't want to see her at all. She was standing there, looking all calm, like we were just going to have a casual chat. I could already tell this wasn't going to go well. "Can we talk?" she asked, all soft and sweet, like she hadn't tried to screw me over a week ago. I should have slammed the door in her face, but stupid me, I opened it and let her in. I thought maybe she was here to apologize. Maybe she realized what she did was messed up and wanted to make things right. Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. We sat down in the living room and she started with the usual, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I just want us to end this on good terms." I didn't say anything, just nodded, letting her talk. But then she hit me with it. The real reason she was here. I think we can work something out without dragging this through court, she said, giving me that same smug smile she had in the courtroom. Maybe if you just agree to give me the house and a little money, we can settle this quietly. Now let me get this straight. She wanted me to give her the house? After everything? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like she was still living in some fantasy where she had all the power. I just stared at her for a second, trying to figure out if she was being serious. Emma, I said, finally breaking the silence, you're not getting the house. We already went over this in court. She sighed like she was talking to a child who didn't understand basic math. I know, but this is different. We don't have to involve the lawyers anymore. We can just come to an agreement ourselves. That's when it clicked for me. She was desperate. She knew she wasn't getting anything from the court, so now she was trying to manipulate me into giving her what she wanted. But I wasn't falling for it this time. I was done being the nice guy. I'm not giving you anything, I told her flat out. You made your choices, and now you're going to have to deal with the consequences. Her whole demeanor changed in an instant. The sweet, calm act was gone, and she was back to being the same entitled, selfish person I'd seen over the past few months. You think you're better than me? She snapped. You wouldn't have anything if it weren't for me. I gave up everything for this marriage, and you're just going to leave me with nothing? That's when I really lost it. I stood up and pointed to the door. You gave up everything? You spent my money, trashed our marriage, and then tried to take me for $500,000. You've got some nerve coming here and acting like I owe you anything. She didn't move, just stood there, glaring at me like she was waiting for me to break and give her what she wanted. But I wasn't backing down. I was done being manipulated. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I sat back down, feeling like I'd just dodged a bullet. But I knew that wasn't the last I'd hear from her. Sure enough, a couple of days later, I got a letter from her lawyer. Emma was trying to drag me back to court, this time demanding spousal support again, claiming she couldn't support herself because she gave up her career for our marriage. It was the same old story she'd been pushing from the start, but now she was really reaching. She even threw in some nonsense about emotional abuse, trying to paint me as the bad guy. But here's the thing. Tim was ready. He'd seen this kind of thing before, and he wasn't about to let her pull anything sneaky. We gathered all the evidence we had, the joint account records, the texts and voicemails where she was threatening me, even some photos she'd posted online of her partying it up with her new guy while still living off my money. By the time we got back to court, Emma didn't stand a chance. The judge wasn't having any of her excuses, especially when Tim laid out the full story. He brought up how she'd been living the high life while claiming she was struggling, and how she'd tried to milk me for money even after she cheated and left. The judge ruled in my favor again. No spousal support, no house, no money. Emma was officially walking away with nothing. And this time, it was for real. When the final ruling came through, I couldn't help but feel a little bad for Jack. He didn't ask for any of this, and he was just a kid caught in the middle. But I knew I couldn't keep supporting him forever. Emma was his mom, and she was going to have to figure things out for herself now. I wasn't going to be her safety net anymore. After everything was finalized, I took a few days off work to process it all. It was weird. This huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but at the same time, I couldn't help but think about how close I came to losing everything. Emma thought she could walk all over me, but in the end, she played herself. So yeah, that's where it all ended. I'm free now, and I'm never getting myself into a situation like that again. Marriage? No thanks. I'll stick to being single for a while, maybe forever. Thanks to everyone who followed along with this whole mess. Your support kept me going, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you should always trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. And don't let anyone take advantage of you just because you want to believe the best in them. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and you've just got to believe them. Anyway, that's it from me. Time to move on and leave this mess in the past. Let me know how that works for you. If you need any more changes or ideas, feel free to ask.